has to be on the beam. You may not include a mount or a dismount. The minimum of 2 elements, one with flight. Remember that not only is the connection very important, but that at least 1 foot must land on top of the beam. So it must be successful. They can fall after they get a foot on the beam. But if they miss the beam completely, that would impact the series as well. A leap or a jump that requires 180 degrees cross or side split. A minimum of a 360 degree turn on 1 foot. Either an aerial or a salto dismount of a minimum A. So to look more in depth at the special requirement for the acro series, as stated earlier, flight to handstand with a 2-second hold is okay, but only for the last element. And that's where your little common sense has to stick in, that if it's the first element she holds for 2 seconds, she is in effect stopped. So then you can't connect it because it must be continuous. The kick to handstand must have a 2-second hold to count as an A value. So you cannot use it as the first element. The non-flight element, acro element, not required to hold in handstand, such as a back walkover. It's okay as the first element. And a press handstand in the routine is okay as long as the first element is a non-hold requirement. So that's where you have to know your code. I'm always so impressed where I'm jumping to another room with Elaine Wolf, because when you say, Elaine, does that one say you have to hold it? She goes, well, check page 124. And then you feel really stupid you challenged her, because she can go to the code by page number. At one point in my career, she convinced me I should know that, and I thought, I'm not capable of that, forget that. I can always look it up. And then the flight and the non-flight rolls are okay. Special requirement 2, the leap or jump. The 180 degrees is for out split deduction. It has to be a minimum of 135 degrees to get the special requirement. If it is below the 180, and 135 to 180, you would still have an execution deduction. It's an up to 2/10 per degree of split. So while she could get the special requirement, there might be a deduction if it's below. It must start and finish on the beam, which we already talked about a little bit. No mounts, no dismounts. It can either be isolated or in a dance or mixed series. So they could just do a standing jump, or they could connect it to something in a mixed series or in a pure dance series. And the cross split must have the front leg extended. That's a general beam thing, that if there's a stacked position, it is generally 1 degree lower unless otherwise stated in the code. Special requirement number 3, the full turn. It can be either in a series or isolated. If the full turn attempt is missing 90 degrees or more, so 90 degrees is 1/4 of your turn, then no value part's awarded, and if they do not get the value part, they cannot get the special requirement. Beam is a little visually easier to see because of the apparatus. Sometimes on the floor you're trying to think, when did she start, when did she end? But watch for the initiation as well as the exit, because she may wind up on the beam and you're looking for when she actually is on toe or not on toe, on one leg. And if it's not relevated, that would be a separate situation, just a separate deduction. And then the dismount aerial or salto. If the dismount without aerial or salto is performed, there is no special requirement. So if they did a round off, jump off, or even just a round off. If the dismount has no value, so it's not listed in the code, which would also be just a round off, from the hands on the beam to the feet on the floor, then if it's not listed on the code, or it does not land on feet first, it's a restricted element or a restricted element. You would deduct both the 5/10 for the special requirement being missing and the 3/10 from the special requirement for no dismount. Remember, if you are somebody who's still testing or plans to test, that's always a great test question. The 3/10 deduction for no dismount comes off the start value. So it gets flashed to the coach, and if you're taking a test, it gets counted into your answer before you circle it or bullet it. Compositionally, the composition that came into play last year For level 8, up to 2/10 for choice of acro element not up to the competitive level. A lot of us are using the UTL up to the competitive or up to level. And the choice of the dance element not up to the competitive level is also up to 2. The last composition for level 8 is choice of dismount not up to the competitive level would be up to 1. And here it is in the little chart of how you use the up to 2. So if my gymnast had BB flight, so that would be my back handspring, that would be 0 deduction. And then I can go all the way to the other end, and if she has no series, or if she has an A and a B, or an A and an A, back walkover, then that would be the full 2/10. So it gives you some examples in between. My honest answer to you is I have not gotten comfortable with any of these. And if you judge with me, you know I'm usually a speedy girl and I'm doing it in my head. Now I have composition cheat sheets in front of me and I check myself every time. If I'm in the level 8 gym all day and I have the privilege of seeing 160, I may wean myself off that by the end of the day. But as soon as they throw a 9 session in, or a 10 session, or a 5 session, I gotta go back to my cards. I'm just not at that comfort level yet that I think I'm infallible, that I could do it with no mistakes. And I don't want a mistake. I want that athlete noted for what she has accomplished or not accomplished, because that's one of our great separators now. Then for additional acros, it's listed as across for the 0 to up to 2. And you just find, I'm going to tell you, the code, Appendix 15, is fabulous. In addition, there's all kinds of things on the NAJ website. If you need a different layout, you know, some of us like it linear, some of us like it horizontal. There's all kinds of ways it's colored and it's worded. So at different levels, I'm using different cheat cards based on how it's laid out. But one that just works for me. And I did that last year, but if you haven't realized that, lots of other choices, or make your own. You know, there's things out there to help you if you're not getting it easily. My choice of being dance not up to the competitive level, then the one that's expected, the example they give you is a minimum of 2 Bs and 1 A. So that's telling you at least 3 skills, because we want a good balance between the acro and the dance. And then at the 2/10s, it's only 1 A dance, and they're in more trouble with that if they don't have at least 1 A dance, because you've got a full turn requirement and a leap requirement. So they're in big trouble if they don't have but 1 A dance because they're missing something else. That would be the full 2/10s. Dismount not up to the competitive level. 0 deduction would be for either a B or B to A acro connection. And then the full 1/10 would be an isolated A or a non-value part dismount. Yes, thank you.